If you like this video, make sure to subscribe to Downfall Network for more cool content.
What's up, everybody? Thralls of Metal here. I am Jammin' Jon, bringing you the next installment of What's Jon Jamming. Now, if you followed any of the last 4 videos I've done, you know that I typically take bands that have messaged us from Instagram or from Facebook or stuff that I find on Bandcamp. Normally I try to stick with the underground, unsigned stuff, just to give that extra little push, because you know, if I were in a band, I would want an extra little push if somebody gave it to me. That's where we're going in music right now. We all need to band together to keep music alive during these times. So I'm going to jump right into it. The first band is one I actually found on my own accord about 2 weeks ago. The band called Ignominy with their album Fear the Living. This came out in 2019 on their own accord. It's a 6-song EP. This is their only album, and it is just crushing. Nasty, gritty guitars, chug, ambience, dissonance. In fact, you're going to find there's a running theme throughout this segment about dissonance, because I am a sucker for dissonant bands. These guys are definitely no slouch. The opener after the intro, Path, has an incredible hook in it that really sticks with you. The next song, Desolated Fear, is just all about the chug. Now, these guys are from Quebec as well, and as you know, Quebec is famous for bands like Beyond Creation and Gorguts and so many awesome, wonderful bands that we all love. And these guys are no slouch in that department either as far as their musical influences. I would state that it's very close to Cryptic Shift, has definite incantation moments. There's just some unforgettable groove and chug that you don't want to miss, so definitely check out Ignominy. On to something a little bit different, to stray away briefly from the dissonant, heavy theme that my segment has. I bring you the band Exa with their album Cut the Past. These guys are from Berlin, Germany, and as you know, Germany has brought us great acts such as Sodom and Creator, and these guys are definitely no slouch in that department either. They are a wonderful thrash band. Although it was done on their own accord, the mixing quality is definitely up there with bands like Shrapnel, who have this amazing sound to them. These guys, I would state, are along the lines of bands like Slayer and Anthrax. Even I compared it to Shadows Fall for a moment, just without Brian Fair's whatever he does, and again with Anthrax without the clean vocals, but these guys are just all about the riff. This is their first full-length album. They had 2 singles come out in 2019, and they had an EP in 2018, so still fairly new to the scene, and they do bring about a little bit more of a modernized thrash. These guys are definitely all about the riffs. The music never really slows down. They actually have a great barn burner song on this. It's only like 2.5-3 minutes long, but it's one of my favorite. It's called Dictators, but Dictator is spelled D-I-C-K because, you know, dictators are kind of dicks, so there's that. But it's actually kind of like if Metallica had stuck with really good thrashy metal music instead of what they play now, and if Lars knew how to play his drums, like, it would all make kind of sense. Actually, when we watched that DVD about the Bay Area thrash scene, I was like, man, these guys would fit perfect, except they're from Berlin, so, you know, whatever. But, again, if you like good quality thrash music, you're gonna love Exa. Please check these guys out. Back to the dissonant, brutal death metal that I love so much, I bring you a band called Rejoice the Light Has Come with their album, which is titled Untitled. The album was released in 2020 on Transcending Records. This is their only release. It's a 3-song EP. It's about maybe 15 minutes long. But I'll just come out and say that directly who it sounds the most like. It's straight Ulcerate and Gorguts worship. Although it's Gorguts during their slightly more technical era. It would be like if Ulcerate had a little bit more chug a little bit more groove and not just straight open blast beats. Not that I mind that, but this just incorporates just a little bit of added touch of heaviness that bands like both of those really don't. It's like they don't capture the chug, and here they have a little bit of chug. There's almost times where you could even say there are like polyrhythmic moments, but the songs are incredible. And the last track, I just have to mention that all the songs on this album, albeit there's only 3 of them, they all have pretty lengthy names, and actually my favorite track on the album was the last track, Vultures Swirling Overhead, comma, an obsidian wreath cast above a sleeping mind. So, albeit a mouthful and probably cost them a little bit more in pressing for the ink for all the song titles, it's a killer song. So, overall, I would definitely say check these guys out. Again, it was nothing that I had ever heard of. Thank God for Bandcamp. I'm sure many of you in bands can attest to the wonders of Bandcamp, so give these guys a spin. Continuing forward, I bring the band Nightmare with their album Cacophony of Terror. It was released in 2018. They're on Seasons of Mist. They're from Tampa, and do I really have to mention the Tampa scene? You know, Morbid Angel, Cannibal Corpse, Death. I'm not going to go on, because I don't have to, because it's Tampa. And these guys add their own special touch to the Tampa scene. This would be classified... Well, actually, they classify it online as technical death metal, but I would call it really low-end death metal. The guitars on this record are just simply nasty. Probably one of the lowest chugs I think I've ever heard. It's crazy. And I guess a way to segue into just what it sounds like, they have some members in this band that are former members of other well-known bands. Their lead singer, John Collette, is from Gigan. The drummer, Paul Siddell, who's best known from War from a Harlot's Mouth, and then of course he is the current drummer in The Ocean, which just today released a killer track, check that out too. And then Keith Marrow, who was first burst onto the scene as just a solo guitar player that was kind of cashing in on that first wave of gent that came out. Beyond his solo albums was also in Conquering Dystopia and then Alluvial with Wes Hawk. So, if that speaks anything to what this band is capable of, then there it is. I was reminded of Black Crown Initiate, Surreption at times. The production is pretty much just what you'd expect from that kind of sound of music. It's on point. The drums are wonderfully done. The guitars, again, chug, depth, grime, dirt, just a real piece of work. And I really dug the ever-loving hell out of this album. I've jammed it a lot. You guys should just jam this because I jammed it, and because I jammed it, you should jam it. So says the jamming one, John. And so now we trudge ever onward with the band Psychotomy and their album Aphotik. This was released in 2018 on Everlasting Spew Records. If you guys, again, have watched Thralls at all, you know that we review a ton of stuff from Everlasting Spew because Everlasting Spew loves to put out badass bands. And these guys are no slouch. This is their second full-length. They have 1 single and 1 EP. They're a 3-piece band from Venice, Italy. Those Italians love their death metal, Hideous Divinity. There's no shortage of music coming out of Europe that is just absolutely 100% kick-ass. So one of the interesting things about this band is there are 2 females in it. The bassist and the vocalist and guitarist. You would never guess that the lead vocalist was a female. You'd never know. In fact, I listened to most of this album before I really got into, figuring out who was in it and where they were from and blah, blah, blah. And the vocalist is a female. She reminds me of the vocalist of the band Abriosus, although she doesn't have the high register that vocalist has. It's more of just deep death growls. From the first song to the last song, you get an immediate incantation, immolation vibe. And if you're fans of either of those bands, then you know 100% what you're about to dive into. A couple of songs that I took away from this I think would best showcase what this band has to offer as far as sound would be Beyond the External Omega and Blasphemous Inception. Both those songs have this great riff structure and hooks and chug moments, and they don't leave behind the wonderful, again, dissonance and ambience that appears in a lot of death metal today. Again, you know, since this came out in 2018, they're probably due for a new record soon, and Encyclopedia Metalum says they're still active, so if y'all are still writing tunes, keep going with what you got. The next band in line is a band that I should have known prior to now. I'm actually upset by the fact that I haven't clicked on them until the last couple weeks. I think what happened was I confused the name of their band with another band I'm a fan of. The band Teeth, with the album The Curse of Entropy. These guys are a 4-piece band. This is their second full-length on Translation Loss Records. Oh my goodness, I can't say enough about this. So right off the bat, I got reminded of bands like Tomb Mold and Mortiferum for their more speedy moments, for their more technical moments, for the riff structures, for the way the vocals jive with the music. And then I also got reminded of the things I love about death metal. Heavy, brutal, just crunching riffs, and just things that make you want to just punch kids in the face, which you shouldn't do. Don't ever punch a child in the face. Just don't. It goes from that sound to Suffocation and Hate Eternal, so just think about the chugs that are in both of those bands, and just think how their goal is just sonic destruction on the ears in the form of brutality. And that's Teeth in a nutshell. The whole album from start to finish is fantastic. Snare just sounds like little sonic booms, so it's pretty neat. The song Birthright, and I jammed this for Necrotic Nick the other day. There's a hook in it, actually, that repeats itself a couple times. The riff they chose, while very simplistic, the way they have it kind of flow in and out of the drum beat, it's just devastating. And then the song Dread just showcases a good mix of all the influences that I mentioned. It's just a perfect mixture of all those. So if you really, really want to bang your head or, you know, get in a fist fight in traffic, this is going to be a great band for that. So check out Teeth. In addition to all the crazy death metal, I have a band called Mass Insanity with their album Maveth, released in 2019 on More Hate Productions. These guys are a 5-piece band from Poland, and as you know, Poland is famous most notably for, you know, Decapitated and Vader. And if you like Decapitated and Vader, you're gonna love Mass Insanity. These guys are pretty much just straightforward death metal. There's not a whole lot of flash going on as far as lead work is concerned, but they have wonderfully heavy breakdowns and just a real straightforward chug to them. Bands like Dying Fetus, you know. I even got reminded a lot of Exhumed or early God Dethroned. Really early God Dethroned. So, where it has kind of a crazier riff over a more simplistic drum beat, like that's kind of what's going on here. Only gripe I think that I would state for this would be to bring the drums up just a little bit. They need to cut through a little bit more, because there's parts where it goes into like a blast or like this weird kind of chug section where not only does the snare drum almost disappear, but the cymbals almost disappear in part, which is not typical for something like this. So that would be my only gripe, but other than that, it's a great representation of just straightforward, stomping, crunchy riff death metal. The title track has great hooks to it, there's a great chug to it. It's a song that features one of the more prominent leads on the record too, so there's definitely a lot going on as far as elementalness is concerned. I don't even think that's a word. The song Control Manipulated is where I got the Decapitated reference from, so it sounds like something that would have come straight off of Nility. That record for me from Decapitated 2 is the meat and potatoes of Decapitated, so please give these guys a listen. I know around the time they initially reached out to us, again, I'm really sorry guys that it took this long. They also had a video come out for a couple songs on this album, so please give these guys a run through and a listen. Stop by, say hello. They would love to hear from you. They were super nice to us. So yeah, Mass Insanity. So to continue on with the brutality, next in line would be All Sect with their album All Sect. This is their only album. It was released in 2017 on Season of Mist. Encyclopedia Metalum claims that they are still active, so you guys, if you're thinking about dropping another album, please drop another album, because this one kicked ass. 3 out of 5 dudes in this band are hailing from other bands. Their drummer Jasper is the ex-drummer of Dodecahedron, and then he also used to play live drums for Exvius. And if you are familiar with either of those two bands, you know that this guy is definitely no slouch on the drums. Their bassist, Dennis, is formerly in Textures, which certainly comes out in this band as well. There are some very wonderful polyrhythmic grooves on this album. And then their guitarist, Jorvis, is also ex-Decadahedron, and that's another band for you. God, those guys are insane. So check out those as well. But back to All Sect, while mostly again Ulcerate and Gorguts, I mean you can't go wrong with either of those bands. You just can't. They also have some groove in them that's not found in Ulcerate and Gorguts. Chuggy, dissonant melodies, but again this album is full of this beautiful ambience and dissonance and just this giant wall of sound, but like a rich wall of sound. The vocalist on this band has a very wide array of vocals. There are even sometimes gang vocals that appear. There's a variant of death growls and growls that have reverb on them and ones that don't, and different screams, and like every song just has a different vocal performance, but somehow it fits perfectly. The song Our Trivial Toll, that's my favorite track on the album. That is full of these nasty chugs and the wonderful groove and again this giant soundscape, yet still dark and airy, like my childhood, the time I spent in the closet as a kid, and all they gave me to play with was a rat. You know, that rat tasted really good though. Beyond that, the song Unveil has this ion dissonance kind of Gojira feel to it. I would just say check out that as well. So again, if you're fans of this kind of music, you don't want to skip out on All Sect, and the fact that it took me 3 years to find All Sect is just horrible. I'm a horrible person. Last but not least, this is a band that I found a couple days ago on Bandcamp. I was looking simply to fill the last slot for this segment. Couldn't find anything, and then I clicked on these dudes, and holy crap, I'm glad I clicked on these dudes. This is the band Our Place of Worship is Silence with their album Inexorable Suffering. These guys are currently a 2-piece blackened death metal band, and the 2 pieces that they have are both from former bands. Their drummer is formerly of Teeth, so he's got that going for him. And then the guitarist is the current bassist in Zabalba. And if you guys saw our review on Zabalba, you know both Necrotic Nick and I praised that album, so he's got that going for him, which is a good thing. This is their second full-length record. They are on Broken Limbs Recording. They are from, again, LA, California, and as you know, LA's got some awesome, wonderful bands. Intronaut. I gotta stop name-dropping Ulcerate, because I name-drop Ulcerate a lot, and Gorguts, but once again, Ulcerate and Gorguts. The breakdowns in here, just think about all the nasty breakdowns from death metal. Again, Suffocation, Morbid Angel. Again, in correlation with all the other bands I have on here, gritty, chuggy dissonance. The breakdowns on here are... Think of the heaviest band you can think of and their breakdowns. I always bring Suffocation into the mix because, oh my god, Suffocation is just nasty. And so are these guys with their breakdowns. Also the band Vermin Womb, which you may or may not be familiar with. I think I had him on a segment a couple, What's Jon Jammin? Tried like the second or third one. But just this really wonderfully grimy sound. In fact, the song Defiance and Upheaval has a chug in it that's similar to Steve Tucker's side project Warfather. Once again, if you've never listened to that band, God in heaven, listen to that band too. But they sound a lot like these guys. For just a two-piece band, right now they're doing pretty well. And once again, Encyclopedia Metalum says these guys are also still together. Again, as this is only their second full length, I hope there's more to come. Also, there's this part in Defiance and Upheaval later on where it sounds like a giant swarm of hornets is slowly eating a school bus full of kids. That's the only way I can describe it. Now, that's pretty dead on, and you'll see why, but anyway, please check out these guys. Please check out all these bands I have mentioned. Last but not least, I would also like to give a shout out to our buddy Matt in Cynicism and our buddy Anthony in Trow. On the last segment of What's Jon Jamming, I reviewed both Trow and Cynicism, and they sent me albums. So Nick and I both got a copy of Trow's album, and we also got a copy of Cynicism's new album, Limb Hymns. When I did the review for this record, I only heard the couple singles. Well, now this is a full length. Please go out and check out Cynicism's full length. I'm really excited to hear this. But also, Matt hooked me up with Cynicism's really cool shirt. I really like the design here going on. The logo's pretty disgusting, and then the back, of course, just says Limb Hymns, which is the title of their album. Matt, thank you very much for this shirt. I can't wait to wear it. Anthony, thank you very much for the Trow CD. Nick and I will both definitely jam the hell out of both of these. So that brings us to the end of What's Jon Jamming, the 5th installment. If you guys like what you saw, please like and subscribe to Thralls of Metal, and please, we will post as much as we can for these bands, most notably the Bandcamp links. Please go and check these guys out. Please jam them on Spotify. In fact, a buddy in the music industry told me that if you want to make sure that the bands get their royalties, either stream them on YouTube or stream them on Spotify. The more music you actually play on Bandcamp doesn't do anything to help the band, and we want to make sure we help all these guys out. Also, last but not least, I will state again, we have Instagram and we have Facebook. If you are a band in the underground that wants to simply give yourself a little push and get your stuff out there, we'll give you a review at any time. Please reach out to us. As always, you guys be well. And please, please, please still take care out there. Wear your masks if you have them. Don't lick doorknobs. Take care.